Okay, so
Oh, cousin, was machst du?
hey, Shalom Aleichem, Sally. Wow,
Aleichem shalom. How are
this
you?
a lot better than I see you.
Aha, look at that. Yeah, can I know
L'chaim, l'chaim, v'rocha.
The Chaim Bracha. Good to see you, cousin.
Wow, that's good, Marvin Simcha thing. Wow, good to see you. So, what we're trying to understand is the words of the Torah. Le'sim Meshakela Karabatzach. There should not be any barren women. There should not be any miscarriages, and what this has to do with us and our service of Hashem. So, what we've concluded with last time we learned was that the Torah says you should not be barren. It's referring to producing positive feelings in serving Hashem, positive feelings of love and reverence for Hashem. And what prevents us from having these positive feelings is the fact that we don't stop to get excited about things that should naturally draw our attention and excitement. The language of Chassidus is Timtum Halev Timtum Hameach. Your heart is stuffed up, your brain is stuffed up, and therefore things which are very exciting and very wow don't penetrate. So what is that stops the thought process from going further and drawing our feelings and excitement? What is it that, although we kind of learn a chapter in Tanya, learn Chassidus, but doesn't go further than that? What prevents us from feeling what we know? So the Rebbe says that just like in a woman there's the womb that produces offspring, so too in the soul there is the, so to speak, the womb that produces positive feelings, and that is spilus sichlas, that you stop and you say, this is amazing. What prevents us from what takes out that place in us that gets that excitement is the fact that it's full of something else. Hashem Chaim Kesselman, Al V'Shalom Mishpia in Kfar Chabad, he once was, used to on Thursday night, people, not just Thursday night, every night people come to him and ask questions about their service of Hashem. And this one guy felt like he was learning a lot and doing a lot, and it just wasn't penetrating. And he asked him to Hashem Chaim's house, and they had a tea together. And Shem Chaim poured himself a cup of tea and poured this guy a cup of tea, but he didn't stop pouring. He's pouring into the guy's cup and pouring, and it spills out the cup. His cup flows over and on the table, and he keeps on pouring, and it goes off the table on the guy's pants. He's like, what? And so Shem Chaim said, what's the problem? He keeps on pouring. The guy's like, it's the cup full already. He says, Shem Chaim says, an empty cup can contain something. A cup which is full can't contain anything. In a similar way, he's telling the guy that there's other stuff he's doing. It's not just that he's learning and davening. There's also other stuff he's doing. And because he's full of the other stuff, therefore there's no room for him to get excited about Yiddishkeit, because there's other stuff that's taking that this is satisfying his or satisfying or blocking his spiritual sensitivity. So here the Rebbe says not necessarily doing things that you shouldn't want to do, but just the fact that you're so full of things that you want, that they are in your mind, your desires, they prevent us from being sensitive to Tanya, to Chassidus, to the Eibishter, the fact that we're full of desires. Let's continue on over here. Let's see this inside. We are on page Yutes. Let's go from the beginning of the paragraph. There are two levels within this concept of a barren woman. One level is there is no womb, there is no uterus to produce a child. The woman does not have the ability to become pregnant. What is the uterus, so to speak, within ourselves? That is the fact that you're excited about something. Your mind says, this is incredible. And once your mind says something is incredible, then that opens the door for your heart to say it's incredible and for there to be actual change in how you feel. What's the meaning of a woman who does not have a uterus, that not only do you not have in your heart a feeling of love and reverence for Hashem, that meaning that your heart is stuffed and you don't have these positive feelings. Not only is that not there, but you're also missing the ability to connect on an intellectual level with the things that you're learning about. What's the cause of this? Because you're not a receptacle. Because you're full. By a human being, if there's a cup that's full, nothing can go in that cup. When a person is a full cup, he's full of his desires. Not only if he's full of the desires of the Yetzer Hara, which are desires for non-kosher things, or the desires of the animal soul for kosher things. The Alter Rebbe talks about in Tanya that the animal soul of a Jew isn't really interested in non-kosher things. The Alter Rebbe says the fact that we go after non-kosher things is because we're possessed with what the Alter Rebbe calls shed mished nuchraim, non-kosher, non-Jewish demons. The nefesh haba'am, the animal soul of a Jew, has desires for kosher things. Selfish, but it's not necessarily out for evil. But although these things are kosher, but having a lust for things which are kosher, this desire for things which are kosher, is called a Jewish demon. And the desires for non-kosher things are called goyish demons, non-Jewish demons. So the person is full of desires, whether the desires are from the Jewish sort or the non-Jewish sort, but he desires things he shouldn't desire. Or even if his desires that he's concentrating on aren't his animal soul's desires, what's present in his mind is things that his neshama wants. And he has ambitions, holy ambitions. If he is full and he is involved in his own desires, if he is in a state where he is very conscious and very affected by his desires, and he says, this kind of avoid, this way of service of Hashem, that I have a talent in, that I like to do. This way of serving Hashem, I don't like to do. So what happens is, that's the meaning of a full vessel. A full vessel that Chassidus cannot penetrate is someone who is full of their own desires, that they think about what they want, they're into what they want, and they say, this I like to do, this I don't like to do. So the truth can't be grasped in their mind to have an intellectual excitement. The truth can get there because the guy is full of his desires. So that's the first concept of a barren woman in our lives, in a spiritual, that there is no uterus, which on a personal level, having no uterus means there's no room to get excited about anything because you're already full of your own desires, and therefore it doesn't talk to you because there's no room for it to talk to you. There's no room for the Tanya to go into you because there's other stuff in your head, other stuff that you're into. So because I'm into my animal soul's desires, or even I'm into my neshama's desires, so I'm stuck in a certain place, and I can't move. The chapter in time doesn't speak to me because I'm already entrenched and I'm firmly in my position over here, whatever I want to do, and the time doesn't speak to me. It's very interesting how the Rebbe puts in the same sentence the desires of your animal soul and desires of the godly soul. We wouldn't put those two things in the same sentence. We would say, there's things we like which are good, things we like which aren't good, and things we like which aren't good as what stops us from getting ahead in life. But the Rebbe is saying over here that in order for us to be able to relate to Chassidus period, we have to want it. Chassidim say that the reason why Maimorim asked the question, a lot of Maimorim asked the question, why does the neshama have to descend from Gan Eden and come to this world? question that I asked in so many memorim, the Hasidim say that the point of the Rebbe in asking this question isn't for the answer. The point is that we should have this question. But when do you have such a question? You have such a question if you don't have your own perspective of why you're here or what you want. So Chassidus can only talk to you if you're listening. So in order to listen, listening means that you're open, not just you're listening with your ears, but that there's something that you're looking for. In Yiddish's expression, nothing is whole as a broken heart. What that means is, in order to be receptacle to what Chassidus has to give us, to acceptable to the truth, we have to push aside our desires and say, what is the Rebbe saying? If I'm full of what I want, so then it doesn't matter what he's saying. I want what I want. So that's the first kind of spirituality discussed in this chapter, in this paragraph. The guy does not have a uterus. He has no possibility for there to ever be excitement because he's full of his own desires. And there's a second kind of a barren woman in our lives. What does that mean? The second kind of barren woman means that she does have a uterus, which means that there is a possibility, there is a part in ourselves that is able to be excited. It's not that there is nothing that can talk to us. That just the only thing is she doesn't give birth. That means that there is a part in the person that is able to understand and get excited with the mind. The mind can it resonates what Chassidus says, and the person gets excited about what Chassidus says. But what happens though is it stops by the mind and it doesn't go to the heart. Just like in order to have a child, there has to be an infinite power of Hashem, as it says in Chassidus, that in order for a human being to be able to have a child, it's something infinite, because what's really going on is that human beings can always reproduce forever. So in order for that ability to reproduce is something infinite. That's why doctors often can't explain why people can't have children. It's not because there is another element in having children besides the being the health of the husband, health of the wife. There's something godly, something infinite that needs to be present for there to be an offspring. So just like there is an infinite power of Hashem needed for a child, so too, in order to produce feelings, the love and reverence for Hashem, there has to be something that's planted there. This refers to Torah mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs are what allow our thoughts that do penetrate our mind. We do get excited about something, but in order for it to go to our heart, we need to have the Eibishter to so to speak, in this analogy, what's the word in English? To inseminate? I don't know. But the Eibishter has to give us a power to that these thoughts in our head should transfer from excitement in our mind to actually being a different person, feeling differently about things. But what is this koyach? What is this koyach elyon? At least once a year, there has to be hazaza atzmas. But in this first step of serving Hashem, there has to be this change, this movement of your very core. In order for the thoughts of your mind to be able to really penetrate, that there should actually be a difference, there needs to be hazaza atzmas. What is the Rebbe referring to? That doesn't say here. In other Meimarim, it talks about how Rosh Hashanah is a time of hazaza atzmas, because at the time of Rosh Hashanah, the Eibishter gives the ability to really change, to really move. But perhaps the Rebbe doesn't specify in this Meimer because he's not only referring to Rosh Hashanah. In the first step, perhaps the Rebbe is just saying a general rule. The first step of serving Hashem, at least once a year, is that a Yid says, Feh! He says he has to, like, as we learned last week with the words of the Kotzker Rebbe, that Hashem says, open up for me like the eye of a needle. Kotzker Rebbe says, what's the meaning of the eye of a needle? When you get pricked by a needle, you jump. So there has to be the first step of serving Hashem. There has to be a jump. There has to be like, I want to be I want to get somewhere else. Without that fire in yourself that you want to go somewhere, so then the thoughts and the excitement of your brain will never reach your heart. There has to be a zaza atzmas. And it sounds like that this is something that the Eibishter allows us to have. It's not just something that we could decide, we're going to say fair. It sounds like Hashem is to help us with that as well. And even after the insemination, there is pregnancy. The child grows in the womb until it comes out into the world. So too, there is a process for our thoughts and feelings to develop until we actually feel differently. But even after you've been successful and you actually have different feelings in your heart, there is another commandment and a blessing in the Torah that there should not be a miscarriage. That you have to be careful that those feelings should stay. That not only you produce feelings, you now feel differently. But who says tomorrow you won't go back to the way you felt before? So that's the Torah says you should not have a miscarriage. It means that your accomplishment and your change in your persona should stay with you. So in short, what we're saying is like this. In order for the Eibishter to have something to say to me, number one, I have to have a uterus. What does the meaning of a uterus? I have to have a part in me that's ready to listen. In order for me to have so that means I can't be full of my own desires. If I'm full of my own desires, I can't hear what you're saying. There's nothing you could say that can make an impression on me because I'm not even listening. So in order for me to be listening, I can't be full of what I want. That's number one. I think I shared this with you. What the Rebbe Marash says, I want is indicative. That feeling I want, that is an indicative of the heart being plugged up. I need is a symptom of the brain being stuffed up. When you say I need, it has to be a certain way that doesn't allow a conversation. I need this. So that means that there's a plumbing problem in your head. I need, it has to be this way.
It's okay to be an I want you.
I want you.
I want you. And I want you.
I want you.
And I want. What about I could? Or it might. Maybe.
The famous Maisa with this Godel B'Yisrael lasted a Brashab. How come he accepts boys in yeshiva with who shave? Sorry, who doesn't accept boys who shaves, but accepts boys in yeshiva speak lashon hara. As the story goes, the Brashab said there's a difference in the chatchila and the guy who speaks lashon hara. So Yitzhak got the better of him. He attacked him and he won him and he convinced him to say lashon hara. He didn't decide to speak lashon hara. No one sits down and says I'm going to speak lashon hara unless they love hell. Anyways, but I don't believe in hell. Whatever. But the person speaks lashon hara because he got better of him in the moment. But a person who shaves, the Rebbe Rashab said, what's the meaning of shaving? The meaning of shaving is that you sit down and you say what the world says is more important to me than what the Torah says. That's what Rebbe Rashab said. So we could translate this in many different ways to ourselves, but as what the Rebbe Rashab perhaps is saying is that when the guy speaks lashon hara, his heart's plugged up. He's insensitive to the damage that he's doing and the pain that he's causing another person and the pain he's causing to his own soul. He's insensitive, so his heart is plugged up. He doesn't know what's going on. He's saying, but it happens. But a guy who's shaving, that means that he just says, I need to do this. Doesn't matter that the Shulchan Aruch says this, Shulchan Aruch says that, there's different opinions. I need this. This is the way life has to be. That's what the Rebbe Rashab said in that scenario. Of course, it's not only for that scenario. We have many things in our lives that we say, I need this. This has to be this way. And when you say that, and you think that, and you believe that, doesn't matter if it's coming from your neshama, but your neshama also can prevent God talking to you. Your neshama could be speaking so loudly that the Eibush can't speak to you. The Rebbe said that a person would have to be full of the desires of his godly soul. I like to learn Torah. I don't like going on mitzvah. I don't like going on the mitzvah campaign. I like going on the mitzvah campaign. I don't like learning Torah. There's things that I like and things that I don't like. So that prevents God being able to talk to me because I'm full of what I want. In order for God to talk to me, I have to say Shema Yisrael. I have to give myself over to Hashem. And here's what Hashem wants to tell me. But if I'm full of what I want, he can't talk to me. In order to be able to hear something, there has to be room in me to listen. So that's the first step. But that's only the first step. After the first step, the woman has a uterus, which means in ourselves that there is a part of us that can get excited. that there's a part of us that can be advertised to, that there's a part of us that's vulnerable enough that will change. But parenthetically, the Friedrich Rebbe says that a balabas, which we use in the vernacular, people who own a house, or people which are balabatim, people who are in the Chassid vernacular, people who are into the world. Friedrich Rebbe says, what's the meaning of a balabas? Means someone who thinks that change is insane. Change is insane. Why is change insane? Because it has to be this way. Okay, so after step one, that's not enough. Whatever says there has to be step two. What step two mean? Step two means there has to be a movement. You're able to get excited, but unless you make a movement in yourself at least once a year, you like jump up and say it, things have to be different, and you go somewhere with that. You're not going. The thoughts in your mind will never lead to your heart. They'll never make it to develop in your heart. And after the develop in your heart, then there's a third thing the Torah says, and that is make sure it stays. Don't have a miscarriage. What's the meaning of not having a miscarriage? Let's go to Ois Vav. What's the meaning of a miscarriage? We also need to find advice for our soul to prevent the miscarriage. That even after a person has reached a state where he's serving God the way he's supposed to, he has love and reverence for Hashem. He's understood, the truth is able to be accepted in his mind. He's able to move, cause a feelings in his heart. He's a Jew. He's a Jew with a heart and mind. He's there. And it's revealed in his heart. It's not imaginary. Real love and real fear. And it's something that is palpable and tangible when he does a mitzvah. He feels love and reverence for Hashem when he puts on tefillin, he gets stucca. He feels the Eibishter in his Torah, he feels God talking to him. In addition to actually doing the Torah mitzvahs, he knows what the mitzvahs mean. And the Rebbe said the reason you're supposed to know what the mitzvahs mean is not just for knowledge, but it's supposed to affect you. It's all the nemen should change you. Not only does he know what he's supposed to think about, he also knows the effect in heaven through mitzvahs. He knows, for example, when he gives tzedakah, he knows that there's an effect in heaven that he causes God's kindness to come upon the world. And he knows by his service of Hashem and level of gvura, that causes also gvura in heaven. He causes Hashem to have gvura and not to nourish that which shouldn't be nourished, which is the negativity in the world. And he knows when it's Torah is a kavem tzoi. Torah is, so to speak, the middle area of the three ways we serve Hashem: Torah, prayer, and kindness. He knows the divine light that comes down to the world for Torah. Just for a second, what are these three different kinds of divine light? We say in our davening, in Uvel Atzion, we say, Kaddish v'shmei, Hashem is holy in his holy abode. We say Hashem is holy in the world, the work of his hands. We say Hashem is holy forever. So the Friedrich Rebbe says these three statements are referring to three kinds of holiness we channel to the world through our Torah, through our prayer, and through our kindness. Through prayer, we connect to Hashem in his holy abode. Through mitzvahs, we cause God's revelation on this earth, on the earth, the work of his hands. And through Torah, says the Friedrich Rebbe, Kadesh la'olam olmi almaya. That means forever and ever. But the word la'olam also means concealment. So we're saying is, when he learns Torah, doesn't matter what stage of Golus it's in, doesn't matter how far we've gone in the exile, but through Torah, it causes Hashem's light to connect to you in a way that touches you. That's what Torah does. That's what sustained the Jewish people throughout the exile, is the fact that the Eibishter is, when you learn Torah, you feel the Eibishter. Even though how concealed Hashem is in Golus, the Torah does something. So Yid knows what he does through Torah. He knows what he does through kindness. He knows what he does through tzedakah. He's well aware of that. But the problem is that when you're satisfied with what you do, so that causes all the positive feelings to dissipate, and it causes other creepy crawly Yetzer Hara kind of things to emerge. What causes the miscarriage, the spiritual miscarriage, so the person has a positive feelings, but they stop and they die, is Svias Ratzon, is the fact that a person is satisfied where he is. The moment you become satisfied and you have this complacency, that is the what stops the children who are born from living on. So the Torah says, do not have a miscarriage, do not be barren in your land. We'll see from tomorrow. The word land refers to desire. The Torah is saying, don't let your desire to serve Hashem ever be satisfied. Don't ever say that don't be machzik tova. Machzik tova means that you don't give yourself so much credit. Like, I've done this, I've reached this, I'm good now. I'm on the moment that you stop climbing the mountain, you start to fall. But here the Rebbe is not just saying that you start to fall because Yetzer Hara comes at you, but Rebbe is saying that it takes away your heart. When you start getting complacent, so all the positive feelings are that you've worked so hard to achieve. The complacency replaces all those positive feelings with this dull distance, this dull sense in your heart that doesn't matter. So after the Torah cautions us not to let the God in, and not to be full of our desires, our own desires. The Torah then cautions us to develop and to try to not just have our mind have a uterus that we should be able to be excited about things, but to work and to have this excitement once a year to serve Hashem, to allow the thoughts in our brain to penetrate our heart. You have to have that once a year, and then that if it develops, you're able to create love and fear of Hashem. So then the Torah says, but don't stop there. Don't be complacent. The moment you're complacent, you go back to square one. I know that. When the Chassidus uses the words love and fear, it scares a lot of people, or more accurately, it says, this is not for me. Love and fear is a high madrega. There's actually a boy in Florida, he was in yeshiva, Rabbi Shapir's yeshiva, there, but he wrote to Rebbe said to him, you should work to reach Ava V'yira. He asked Rabbi Shapir, what do I do? So, you got to do it. So, but putting that aside, so let's say you feel that's true for you. Let's say your sis can't ever talk to you, right? And you learn tiny, you feel like a dog howling at the moon. The language that Rebbe Rashab, he says people learn tiny like they can feel like a dog howling at the moon. Let's say that's what your reality is now. That's how you feel about tiny chas v'shalom. But I think the last point I was making about not being complacent, I think that's something that we all can relate to on our own level. Without the Ava V'yira, we know that complacency prevents us from getting anywhere. There's a don't have Svias Ratzon. Don't say that you're there. Don't say you're there. It allows you to go somewhere. Anyways, that's where we're going to stop today. Any questions or comments? Dr. Bress, I want to point out to you that we don't hear any sound in the background. You're not muted, and there is no background noise unless the heater is louder than the background noise. I don't hear a background noise.
Fantastic.
All right.
Sorry.
Any questions?
You're
All right. Great day, Dr. Bressman. Great day, Beryl. Great day, Yonatan. Great day, Aryeh. Great day, Chamorachai.
I'll listen to this later. What time will you post it?
Menachem Mendel has to post that. I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
Probably in the next hour or so.
Thank you. Have a good